evening had started like any other. James Carter had just returned home after a long day at work, exhausted but relieved to see the warm lights of the house he shared with his wife, Vanessa. He had been carrying the weight of late nights, projects, and endless responsibilities at the office, all to build a better future for both of them. But that night, the house was anything but warm. Vanessa was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, her face illuminated by the cold blue light. She didn't even look up when James entered. "You're late again," she said flatly. James sighed, setting down his briefcase. "The meeting ran longer than expected." "I'm sorry. I thought you'd be asleep by now." Her eyes flicked up, sharp and accusing. "Always working, always tired, always boring." The words stung, but James kept his composure. "I'm doing this for us, Vanessa." "Everything I've been working for, it's for our future," she scoffed, tossing her phone aside. "Future? You mean a future of endless nights alone while my husband slaves away, acting like a ghost in his own home? I didn't marry you to sit here and waste my youth." James froze. "Vanessa, what are you saying?" She stood abruptly, her eyes flashing with something cruel. "I'm saying I can replace you in 24 hours. Don't think you're irreplaceable, James. Men are lined up waiting to give me the life I deserve. All it would take is one phone call." The silence that followed was suffocating. James felt his chest tighten. He stared at her, trying to find the woman he had fallen in love with, the woman he had promised to cherish forever. But in that moment, all he saw was contempt. Her words cut deeper than any blade. "Replace you in 24 hours. Something inside James shifted. The man who had spent years sacrificing, enduring, loving unconditionally, he died in that moment. What remained was colder, stronger, unforgiving. Part 2. The calm mask. The next morning, James was unusually calm. He brewed coffee, made breakfast, and kissed Vanessa on the cheek before leaving for work. She blinked at him, confused. After her outburst the night before, she had expected an argument, anger, maybe even a breakdown. But instead, James was composed, too composed. As the days passed, Vanessa noticed the changes. James still came home late, but there was no tension in his voice. He smiled more. He listened more. He acted like nothing had happened. But beneath the surface, something was brewing. At the office, James quietly began making moves. He spoke with his lawyer, his financial advisor, and his most trusted contacts. For years, he had been building something Vanessa never knew about. A network, investments, assets hidden in plain sight. She thought he was an overworked middle manager scraping to keep up. In truth, James had been preparing for storms she never even imagined. And now, the storm was here. He transferred funds into accounts she couldn't touch. He adjusted property deeds. He ensured that if Vanessa ever decided to follow through on her threat, she would be left with nothing. Meanwhile, at home, he played the role of the doting husband. He brought her flowers, planned dinners, even suggested a weekend getaway. Vanessa's guard lowered. She told herself maybe she had been too harsh. Maybe James wasn't so bad after all. Maybe she could tolerate the boring life if it came with stability. But she didn't realize she was already standing in the center of a trap, carefully laid by the man she had underestimated. A week later, James suggested something unusual. "Vanessa," he said one evening, "why don't we go out to dinner? Somewhere nice." "It's been a while." Vanessa blinked in surprise. A part of her had expected James to hold on to her words, to resent her. But instead, he seemed to be turning into the kind of man she always said she wanted. Attentive, confident, generous. "Sure," she said slowly. "Why not?" They went to a high-end restaurant, the kind Vanessa adored. Candlelight reflected off the crystal glasses. The sound of clinking cutlery filled the air. For the first time in weeks, Vanessa felt like she had won. Halfway through the meal, James leaned across the table. "You remember what you told me last week?" he asked. Her stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" His eyes locked onto hers, unblinking. "That you could replace me in 24 hours. The color drained from her face. She opened her mouth to speak, but James continued. "I just wanted to say, you're right." Her fork clattered against the plate. "James, you can replace me in 24 hours, he said calmly, "but you'll never replace what I've already taken away." Confusion flickered across her face. "What are you talking about?" James smiled, a cold, devastating smile. By this time tomorrow, the house will no longer be ours. The accounts? Closed. The car? Sold. Everything you thought you could take with you is gone. Vanessa's chest tightened. You're lying. James pulled a folder from his briefcase and slid it across the table. Inside were legal documents, signed, notarized, finalized. Not lying, he said softly. Planning. Vanessa's hands shook as she flipped through the pages. Every asset, every account, every piece of property had been secured in James's name or transferred beyond her reach. You said you could replace me in 24 hours, James continued. So I thought I'd make sure when you try. You'll have nothing to show for it. Tears welled in Vanessa's eyes. James, please. I didn't mean it. I was angry. I didn't. But James wasn't finished. Oh, and one more thing, he added. I've filed for divorce. Infidelity, neglect, cruelty, it's all documented. By the time the court is through, you'll walk away with nothing. Not even sympathy. Vanessa's voice broke. James, don't do this. We can fix it. James leaned back, his face expressionless. I already fixed it. For myself, the divorce was swift. Vanessa had no chance. James's lawyer was ruthless, armed with evidence she never knew he had collected. The house went to James. The accounts remained locked. Vanessa was forced to move into a small apartment, her glamorous lifestyle reduced to nothing. She tried calling her so-called admirers. The men lined up waiting for her. But none of them wanted a broke divorcee with a scandal attached to her name. James, meanwhile, thrived. Freed from the weight of a toxic marriage, he poured himself into his work and passions. His reputation at the company soared. His friends admired his resilience. Vanessa, on the other hand, spiraled. The more she begged James to reconsider, the colder he became. One rainy evening, months later, she appeared at his doorstep, drenched and broken. James, she whispered, her voice trembling. Please take me back. I was wrong. I can't do this without you. James looked at her for a long moment. Then he said the words that would haunt her forever. You said you could replace me in 24 hours. It's been 6 months. Why are you still alone? Her knees buckled. Please. But James closed the door in her face. That night, as James sat by the fire with a glass of wine, he felt no regret. Vanessa had underestimated him, humiliated him, and believed he was disposable. But in the end, she learned the most brutal truth of all. Some men are not replaceable, and his answer was one she would never forget.